at
Yeah,
all.
it's
We we're putting
disrespectful
words in
all the way.
anyone's mouth, number
Yeah.
one. But, you know, it's not okay to be spreading rumors that aren't true.
Yeah, exactly.
That's been happening a lot, obviously.
Just
Heck
keep
yeah. That's awesome.
and I just want to put this out there too. My son's addiction has nothing to do with me, just like Kara's addiction has nothing to do with Xana. So people stop connecting them. Period.
Yeah.
Completely
Yeah.
irrelevant. Completely irrelevant. She has enough to deal with. You know, enough grief. She doesn't need more guilt on top of natural maternal guilt. You know, so.
Yeah. And as far as that goes, anything saying like that Xana was some kind of a drug dealer or that's just silly. That's just it really is. It's just not okay. So these kids were not drug dealers. They weren't anything like that. I think, you know, if you watch their videos enough, you can kind of tell, you know, what kind of kids they were. Yeah, they like to party. They're in college. They like to drink and whatever, but they weren't drug dealers.
They're just living their life.
Right. Yeah. They were going to school. They had jobs. They were, you know, doing the right things. So, yeah, they weren't about drug dealing.
So if you don't mind, you two chat for a few. I'm going to catch up on highlighting some of these awesome comments for Kara, okay?
Okay. So, if you don't mind me asking, and I don't know how much information that the like cops have actually given you or whatever, but did they happen to mention if Xana and Ethan or Xana, if they were in their like regular clothes or if they were in pajamas?
No.
Okay. That's something I was curious about because I'm trying to figure out like just how alert the whole house was. And it's just really been bothering me because, you know, if they were home around midnight from the party, they'd been eating and the other girls had been home for a while. And I know that they looked, you know, pretty drunk in the grub truck video, but they were eating heavily carbonated pasta. Yeah. And not carbonated, that's soda, but, you know, carbohydrates, you know, pasta, like soaking it up.
Yeah.
And it was like a few hours after the point. So that's just something I've been trying to figure out, like how relaxed were these kids if everyone was just now turning off the lights around 4 a.m. and then all this popped off just a few minutes later. It doesn't really seem like a situation where they wouldn't have been alert.
No, I mean, I think back to like my partying days back when I was their age, and you know, when you're young like that, you can pretty much put your body through so much before it's like, you know, and when you get to be my age in your 40s and you try that, then you know, yeah, you're down for the count. But at that age, no, there's not much that you can do to yourself to make you incapacitated. So to speak.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I literally just bent down to grab the cheese out the bottom of the fridge the other day and literally like pulled a muscle in my back. So yeah, I can't do anything. Back in the day, I could run myself ragged for a week at a time, just 3 hours of sleep, just working and doing everything I needed to do, and it was fine. So yeah, that's just their you know, their coherence is something that's been a big issue for me because I just don't know if it would have been so bad that they couldn't have like fought one person off in a house of 6. That's my biggest thing here.
Right. Yeah. And especially somebody the size of Ethan.
Yes.
You know, he's a big boy. So, I mean, by anybody's standards. So, I mean, he was a large boy. So, man.
Yeah, I agree.
So, yeah. And as far as Kohlberger goes, I mean, Ethan compared to him, I mean, he was big.
Yeah. So
I mean, and obviously, though, they probably got him, you know, off guard. Is what my thoughts were.
Yeah. I mean, I'm pretty sure. I mean, I've been trying to wrap my head around like the whole scenario, and I mean, I don't put a lot of my thoughts out there because I just don't want to put just anything out there. But I sit down and I think about this more times than I want to admit I do because it doesn't make sense. For just like you said, the timing that they're giving us, it just doesn't make sense whatsoever. And
Yeah,
it's
it
it's
isn't.
so confusing. It's just so confusing. So when it comes to the information that the families are allowed to have, I know that the Gonsalveses have made it kind of seem as if y'all aren't really getting a lot of information whatsoever, and it seems like that's the truth here. Like the families really aren't being told much. Is there any communication between families? Like are y'all talking to each other at all, trying to sort of fit things together?
I honestly no. I haven't really spoken with.
Truthful or factual. All we've had when it comes to DoorDash is a bunch of crusty, rusty pictures come out of a Starbucks cup that looks like it's been sitting there for like a week next to a Jack in the Box order that has Anna's name on it. But these are mainstream photos. And we've also seen that the people that were inside doing the investigation in the house move stuff around too, because there's previous pictures of this Jack in the Box bag on the table, and then there's pictures of the Jack in the Box bag by the sink next to the nasty old Starbucks cup. So I never really thought ever that Jack in the Box had anything to do with whatever was going on, because that looked like old trash, not something that was just delivered within minutes of more than half the house no longer being alive. Now, the controversy came from conversations that Xana's family had online. When the crime first happened, Xana's family actually did interviews over in Arizona because that's where like the family's actually from. And Jeff mentions how Xana told him that her and Ethan were home at midnight, that they were watching movies and they were at home. Now, a lot of people were wondering if she just said that to Jeff to make him not like worry about whatever was going on or wherever she was because it was a Saturday night or whatever. But we also know what we heard about what apparently went down at Sigma Chi between Ethan and some of the other frat bros. The 4chan posts are extremely interesting and very detailed. It's kind of something you can't really ignore. That and a few other things that piece together beautifully, you really just can't ignore it at all. And honestly, this makes the situation sound pretty severe.
That's what he told me personally, was that he spoke with her and that, they were at the party and that there was that altercation. She didn't want him to worry, and he was ready to get in his car and drive over there because he was in Pullman and he was getting ready to drive over to check on Xana, but Jasmine, she was like, no, Dad, you've been drinking, don't drive.
Why would Jeff have had a reaction of, I need to get in my car and go check on my kid right now, after Xana told them about a confrontation that happened at Sigma Chi? Xana's an adult. Ethan was an adult, okay? They're adults, living by themselves and living together, which we'll get to that in a minute. But Jasmine had to stop Jeff from getting in the car and going over to King Road to check on Xana. That means what? That somebody threatened his daughter's life? Because you wouldn't go over there if it was just a fight between Ethan and some frat brothers. You wouldn't be wanting to run over there to protect your daughter's boyfriend from his friends and him arguing. You're wanting to get into your vehicle to go protect your daughter because your daughter's telling you something that makes you worry. I wish we knew what that was. But the pizza controversy has been around just as long as the questions about the DoorDash has. Do you see how it also says 8 Day right here? And do you notice the company name right here? Domino's. Domino's. So, 8 Day, meaning the 12th. Not the 13th. So not after midnight.
Does it ever end with Brian Koberger?
So there's also the talk about these sororities and fraternities when something like this happens, that they're supposed to notify, the president or the head of the sorority or fraternity and call a meeting before any law enforcement or anything is notified. So I don't know if something like that was going on, or if they just fell asleep, woke up. I don't know. All I know is there is a lot of time.
Yeah.
That, these murders happen, they say in 10 minutes. Well, there was 6, 7, 8 hours that a lot of other things could be happening too. So we don't know if she did indeed go back to sleep, if there was more than one perpetrator if they were still in the house doing something, you know? I mean,
Yeah.
there could be so many different scenarios with that much of a time gap.
And or the perpetrators, whoever, the let's just say the real people involved in this. What if not even Xana ordered that? What if somebody else ordered that to use as a distraction? And that's why there was all that circling around until right when I noticed, you know, like right when that DoorDash shows up, suddenly they're out of the car. They, he, she, whoever is out of that car and in that house at that exact moment that DoorDash appears to be delivering at the front door. What if they use that as a diversion to get in the back? What do you think of that, Kara?
That's actually a really good theory there. I can't say that it happened, but it's definitely a possibility. And that would make sense.
Does it ever end with Brian Koberger